Sure, tonight we're diving into a subject that most history books either gloss over or skip entirely: the lives of women working in Victorian-era brothels. I know, it might sound like a strange choice for a bedtime story, but honestly, it's one of those deeply human, often forgotten corners of the past that deserves to be remembered. Real women, real lives, just trying to survive in a world that gave them few choices. Oh, and if you're enjoying these stories, I'd be so grateful if you hit like or subscribe. I always love hearing where folks are tuning in from. So drop a comment with your location and the time. It's always wild to think how people all over the world are falling asleep to the same stories. Now go ahead, find that cozy spot. Take a long, unhurried breath and let yourself sink into wherever you're resting. We're heading back in time, all the way to Victorian London. And believe me, by the time we finish, you're going to feel seriously grateful for your mattress. So congratulations. You've just woken up in London, year 1857, right in the heart of the Victorian era. It's early, 5 or maybe 6 in the morning. But you're not lying in some ornate four-poster bed with crisp linens. No, you're stretched out on a slightly lumpy horsehair mattress, a thin woolen blanket draped over you. The sheets beneath you haven't been freshly washed. They're only changed about once a week if you're lucky. They carry a faint trace of cheap lavender water, just barely masking the deeper, musty smell that clings to the fabric. The room is cold. The tiny fireplace hasn't been lit this morning, since coal is rationed tightly, especially during early hours. Faded floral wallpaper clings to the walls, peeling back at the corners where the damp has crept in. The air has a scent you can't ignore, a mix of soot from 1,000 chimneys, the sour muddy aroma drifting up from the nearby Thames, and something else, something sharp and cloyingly sweet. It's the chemical scent of perfumes and cheap cosmetics, the tools of your trade. This room? It's tucked in the back of a brothel in the Haymarket district. Not the worst place by far, but nowhere near the top tier either. You share this tiny space with another woman. She's still asleep in the bed opposite yours, breathing slow and steady, curled under her own blanket. When you shift slightly, the springs beneath you groan in protest. You stretch out your legs, pointing your toes until the muscles tense, then soften with release. That's nice. A quiet moment to yourself before the day begins. Outside, the city of London is already alive. You hear the rhythmic clip-clop of horses on cobblestones, the distant rattle of carts trundling down narrow streets. A street vendor calls out, "Fresh bread," his voice echoing faintly between tall brick buildings. This is your life now. They call you Mary here. It's not the name your mother gave you, but it's the one that's stuck. You've been living in this house for close to 2 years, which, in this line of work, practically makes you part of the furniture. You've watched girls come and go, some moving on to better houses, others vanishing back into the hunger they tried to escape, and a few, well, they got sick and simply never got better. You sit up slowly, keeping the blanket wrapped around your waist. The floorboards are freezing beneath your bare feet as you reach out for the worn woolen shawl hanging on the bedpost. You pull it tight across your shoulders, and the warmth settles in, snug, familiar. That helps. On the small table between your beds is a ceramic pitcher, chipped along the rim, resting atop a matching basin. The water inside has iced over during the night. London winters are vicious. You press your finger against the surface, breaking through the frozen layer. The cold stings instantly as you splash your face. It shocks your body awake, your breath hitching just for a second before finding its rhythm again. And now, let's talk about how you came to be here. In this room. In this life. Because your story? It's not the one people like to assume. You weren't dragged here as a child, sold off, or stolen from your home. That happened to some girls, especially the younger ones, yes. But not you. You also weren't ruined by some charming scoundrel, left pregnant and destitute, discarded like so many others. No, your road was far more ordinary, and in many ways, more typical of how women end up in this line of work. You were a seamstress, a good one. Quick fingers, a sharp eye for detail. But in a city like London, there were hundreds, thousands, just like you. All of them scrambling for the same scraps of poorly paid work. The same exhausting, underpaid work. As the British Quarterly once noted, the drudgery endured by a dressmaker's apprentice made factory labor seem like child's play by comparison, and they weren't wrong. You'd toil away for 14, sometimes even 16 hours a day, your eyes straining in dim candlelight, your fingers raw, cracked, and bleeding from the cold. And for what? Wages so meager they barely kept you clothed, barely kept a roof over your head. You lean gently back against the wall now, feeling the solidity of it behind you like a small mercy. Taking a deep breath, you roll your shoulders slowly, letting some of that old tension seep out of your body. There, that's better. Just easy, quiet, and calm. You remember the turning point with perfect clarity. It was winter, 3 years ago. You hadn't eaten for 2 full days. The room you rented back then had no heat, and you could see the mist of your breath hanging in the freezing air as you worked desperately to finish a commission. If you were lucky, it might earn you enough to pay for another week's lodging. Your hands were so numb, you kept pricking your own skin with the needle, tiny spots of blood staining the fine white linen you were stitching. That's when Jane came by, a girl you used to work with. She looked different now, fuller in the face, clearly better fed, wearing a wool dress that wasn't fashionable by upper-class standards, but it was clean, well-stitched, and warm. She brought food. Actual hot food. A meat pie, still giving off steam in its brown paper wrapper. She sat with you as you devoured it, trying not to look too grateful, too desperate. Finally, she spoke. "There's a place," she said carefully. "A house off Haymarket. The madam is strict, but she's fair. No beatings, no cruel nonsense. 2 meals a day, a real bed, weekly medical checks." She paused, watching your reaction, gauging how far you'd fallen. "Mary, you'd earn in a single night what you make in an entire week here, and you wouldn't be killing yourself with this." She gestured toward the growing heap of fabric and bloody thread beside you. You didn't answer her right away. You'd been raised in a proper home, a God-fearing household. But your parents were long gone, and your brothers scattered, off chasing work in other cities, just like everyone else. And here you were, slowly starving to death, one stitch, one cold hour at a time. That memory presses gently into your chest now, and you let it rest there for a moment, allowing yourself to settle more deeply into the mattress. Your breathing slows, naturally, in and out, calm and even. Around you, the house is beginning to stir. You hear footsteps on the stairs, heavy ones. Probably Mrs. Winters, the housekeeper. The low clatter of coal being shoveled into the fireplace downstairs follows, a fire being lit in the parlor where the customers will eventually gather. The scent of coffee begins to drift upward through the floorboards. Real coffee, not chicory, one of the little indulgences this house is proud of. Your roommate stirs in the bed across from you, murmuring something in her sleep before rolling over. She goes by Lily here. She's a few years younger than you, perhaps 19 to your 24. She has auburn hair, the kind gentlemen tend to favor. She told you once that she came from a factory in Manchester, and the noise of the looms had left her partially deaf in one ear. Time to get up properly now. There are routines to keep, expectations to meet. Mrs. Winters keeps a tight schedule and doesn't tolerate delays. The madam, Mrs. Cartwright to her face, though most of the girls refer to her as Carty when she's out of earshot, expects everyone to be washed, dressed, and downstairs looking presentable by noon. The brothel runs on a finely tuned rhythm. Mornings are for cleaning, bathing, and brief moments of rest. Afternoons bring in a few steady clients, businessmen sneaking away on their lunch breaks. But the true rush comes in the evening and deep into the night, when the house stays full until the early hours. But in this gentle morning moment, you can afford to take your time. You reach toward the small tin on the bedside table and open it to find a modest lump of beeswax inside. You rub it between your palms until it softens, then gently smooth it across your chapped lips. Another small indulgence. Mrs. Cartwright always insists that the girls maintain appearances. "You're selling an illusion, girls," she says often. "Men don't want the truth of a working woman's life. They want the dream." You nod slightly, thinking back on that line. It's true. Most of the men who come here aren't looking for real. They're looking for escape, for a moment of attention, of softness, of being seen. You stand and stretch, arms high above your head, your fingers brushing the low ceiling. You feel the pull in your muscles, the relief in the release. Your nightdress, plain and cotton, falls around your ankles. It's nothing like the silks and lace you wear in the evenings when you're on duty. Moving to the modest wardrobe, you open the doors and take a moment to consider what to wear. During the day, when you're not seeing clients, you dress simply. An ordinary frock, practical shoes. Nothing to mark you as anything different from a servant or a seamstress or any other working woman on London streets. It matters. Brothels themselves aren't strictly illegal, but public solicitation is. Police usually turn a blind eye to well-run houses, especially the ones that know which palms to grease, but discretion remains essential. You choose a dark blue dress, a little faded at the seams but carefully mended, and lay it out on the bed. Dressing takes longer in the mornings than it does in the evenings when speed is sometimes required. Now, you savor the rhythm. First stockings, then the petticoat. Then comes the corset, not too tight, just enough to provide shape and structure. As you dress, you think ahead to the day. Tuesdays tend to be quiet. You might see a few regulars. Mr. Phillips, the mild-mannered bank clerk who only ever wants to talk about his stamp collection, or that young man who calls himself Smith and always leaves after 15 nervous minutes. Outside, London gets louder. A group of children races past below your window, their high voices shrill with morning energy. A dog barks. A street vendor begins his call, melodic and practiced. Knives to grind. Knives to grind. It still amazes you sometimes how ordinary this life feels. How the work society calls degrading, even damning, takes place in the same flow of city life as everything else. The baker delivers his bread to the brothel just as he does to the proper boarding house next door. The coalman, the iceman, they all stop here too. It's a house, after all, a place people live. You sit again on the edge of the bed, letting yourself breathe deeply. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Calm and easy. That's it. There's a soft knock at the door. "Hot water, miss," comes the voice. It's Betsy, the young maid-of-all-work. Just 13, far too young for the brothel's business. Mrs. Cartwright took her in after finding her half-starved and begging on the street. Now she runs errands, helps the housekeeper, and sleeps in a tiny room off the kitchen. For now, she's protected, and that's more than most girls her age ever get. The housekeeper runs errands and sleeps in a small room tucked behind the kitchen. In a few more years, Betsy will likely be initiated into the house's main business like the other girls. But for now, she's protected. And honestly, that alone puts her in a better place than most children left to fend for themselves on London's harsh streets. "Come in, Betsy," you call gently. The door creaks open and the young girl steps inside, balancing a heavy jug of steaming water in her arms. Her face is scrubbed clean, cheeks still pink from the effort, and her brown hair is neatly braided down her back. "Morning, Miss Mary," she says brightly, pouring the hot water into your basin with practiced care. "Cold one today? Mrs. Winters says we might get snow." "Thank you, Betsy," you reply with a smile. "Have you had your breakfast yet?" "Yes, Mississippi cook made porridge with treacle. There's coffee in the kitchen if you want some. And fresh bread, too." That's another thing that sets this house apart from many others. Regular meals, proper food. In the worst brothels, girls might go hungry if business was slow, or be given scraps barely fit for dogs. But Mrs. Cartwright understands something fundamental. Healthy girls bring in more money. After Betsy leaves, you begin your morning wash with the hot water, relishing the way it warms your skin. The process itself is comforting in its repetition. First your face, then your neck, your arms, under your arms, and finally a quick, discreet rinse of your most intimate parts. Full baths happen twice a week here, Wednesdays and Sundays, in a large copper tub hauled into the kitchen. That's more frequent than what many respectable working-class women can afford. Once you're washed, you feel a bit more human again. You reach for your comb and draw it slowly through your hair. It's thick, dark brown, and falls halfway down your back when left loose. For now, you twist it into a simple knot at the base of your neck. Later, when it's time to work, you'll style it with more care, perhaps using that hairpiece that adds a bit of curl and volume. A small mirror leans against the dresser. Its silver backing is spotted with age, but still serviceable. You glance at your reflection. Your face looks fuller now than in the days when you were a starving seamstress. The hollows in your cheeks have softened. There's more color in your skin. But your eyes are different. They've changed. Sharper now. More guarded. You've seen too much, learned too much. Things the girl you once were could never have imagined. You shake off the thought. No use dwelling on it. Best to focus on the day ahead. You bend to lace up your boots, your fingers moving with mechanical precision, the movements practiced and automatic. There's rhythm in the work, comfort in that familiarity. Your breathing slows, in and out, steady and even. You're dressed now, presentable, ready to begin the day. First order of business, breakfast. After that, the morning cleaning duties. Every girl has her assigned chores. Yours are to dust the parlor and polish the glasses in the small bar at the corner of the room. Mrs. Cartwright believes idle hands invite trouble, so even when you're not with clients, you're expected to stay busy. Lily stirs at last, groaning softly as she sits up and pushes a tangle of auburn hair away from her face. "Morning," she mumbles. "It's just past 7, you tell her. Plenty of time yet." She yawns and stretches her arms overhead. "Had that dream again. The one about the seaside. Have you ever been, Mary?" she asks wistfully. "Once," you reply, thinking back to a rare family outing long ago. "Brighton. I was small. I'd like to go someday," she says, her voice filled with longing. "They say the air's different there. Clean. The kind you can really breathe. It's a common fantasy among the girls. Save up enough money to leave London behind and start fresh somewhere else. So manage it. Most don't. The money, though good compared to most other work women can do, always finds a way of vanishing, spent on rent, food, clothes for the job, or little comforts that make life tolerable. You will, you tell her, though you're not sure you believe it yourself. Just put something aside every week. Even a shilling. It adds up." She nods slowly, but you both know how hard it is. There's always something. A toothache that needs tending. A torn dress that can't be mended. A friend who's suddenly desperate. Life has a way of swallowing up whatever savings you try to build. The weight of that truth hangs in the air for a moment before you exhale and let it go. Your shoulders drop slightly. "That's better. Just breathe. I'll see you downstairs," you tell Lily as she finally swings her legs over the side of her bed. "Don't take too long. Mrs. Winters was stomping about earlier. You know what that means." "She's in a mood," Lily says, wincing. "I'll hurry." You step into the hallway and close the door quietly behind you. The narrow corridor is dimly lit, its worn carpet muffling your steps. There are 4 other bedrooms on this floor, all much like yours. Downstairs lie the public rooms, the parlor where guests are received, the small dining room, the kitchen, and the servants' quarters at the very back. The best bedroom, of course, belongs to Mrs. Cartwright. It's on the ground floor, so she can keep a close eye on who comes and goes. The house is tall and narrow, wedged tightly between others on a quiet street. From the outside, it appears entirely respectable, clean curtains in every window, a door freshly painted. Nothing hints at what happens inside. There's no red lantern, no suggestive signage. Clients know about this place through word of mouth, discreet ads in certain publications, or referrals from cab drivers and hotel porters who earn a little extra steering gentlemen this way. As you descend the stairs, the scent of coffee grows stronger, now layered with the aroma of baking bread and frying bacon. Your stomach growls in response. The wooden steps creak beneath your feet, an ordinary, familiar sound. You run your hand along the polished banister, its surface worn smooth by countless others before you. The house is beginning to warm. Fires have been lit in the parlor and kitchen. The stubborn London chill is finally retreating, at least inside these walls. You can hear Mrs. Winters giving cook her usual morning instructions. The house sounds like any other, lively, domestic, full of motion. And for a moment, if you didn't know better, you might believe this could be any home on any London street. There's a rhythm to these mornings, one that settles into your bones. You feel your body match its tempo, step by step, breath by breath, in and out, steady and calm. At the bottom of the stairs, you pause, just for a second, to feel the floor beneath your feet, to breathe. Your muscles feel loose, your mind quiet. You're alive. You've survived another night in a city that swallows people whole. The kitchen door is open, golden light spilling into the dim hallway. The cook stands with her back to you, tending something on the stove. Betsy is setting the table, her movements quick but careful. Mrs. Winters is seated in the corner, spectacles perched on her nose, reading a letter, her gray hair tucked into a neat cap. An ordinary scene. A quiet moment of calm before the day's dance begins. You breathe in deeply, filling your lungs with the mingled warmth of coffee, bread, and smoke. Then you let it out slowly. Tension rolls off your shoulders. You're ready now. You step forward into the kitchen, into the soft hum of voices and the rich smell of bacon sizzling in the pan. Your stomach clenches again in quiet anticipation. "Morning, Mary," says the cook without turning around. The cook doesn't even turn around, yet still greets you by name. She has an uncanny ability to recognize everyone in the house by the sound of their footsteps alone. "Sleep well?" she asks. "Well enough," you reply softly, moving across the warm kitchen to help Betsy with the breakfast table. The routine is familiar, even comforting: the weight of the ceramic plates, the soft clink of cutlery, the careful alignment of forks and spoons. Your hands move instinctively, leaving your mind free to drift, pleasant and unfocused. Outside, London hums to life. A church bell tolls in the distance, marking the hour. You hear voices, street vendors calling, neighbors chatting, children laughing. The city's song rises and falls around you like breath itself. Like waves, curling in and out, gentle and steady, just like the seaside Lily dreams of. It's a rhythm you find yourself slipping into almost unconsciously, a cadence that carries you through the early part of the day. Your body relaxes, your breathing slows. You feel grounded in the moment, calm and untroubled, just moving gently through the morning's rhythm. The scent of fresh bread is growing stronger. Cook has just pulled a loaf from the oven, its golden crust crackling as it cools on the rack. The kitchen table, large and rectangular, is worn smooth from decades of use. 8 chairs are crammed around it, enough for the 5 girls who currently live and work in the house, plus Mrs. Winters, Betsy, and Cook. Mrs. Cartwright, as always, eats separately in her private sitting room. She believes in maintaining a sense of distance, a boundary between herself and the women she manages. That line matters to her. You ease into your usual chair, the seat molded by years of use. There's something oddly comforting about that, about the continuity, the idea that others sat here before you, and others will sit here long after you've gone. Cook sets a large pot of porridge down in the center of the table with a firm, satisfying thud. "Eat up while it's hot," she says, her cheeks flushed from the stove. She's in her 50s, a widow who came to this house after her husband's death left her without a penny. She rarely comments on the nature of the work here. She just cooks, keeps to herself. But she insists the girls eat well. In her view, good food is the foundation of good health. You help yourself to a generous bowl. Steam curls upward in soft, fragrant tendrils. The first bite is rich and warm, thick, creamy porridge made with milk rather than water, sweetened with a spoonful of treacle. Another small luxury that sets this house apart. You close your eyes briefly as you chew, allowing yourself to savor the simplicity of a hot breakfast when you're truly hungry. The other girls begin to filter in gradually. First comes Emily, a petite blonde who's been here for about 6 months. Then Sarah, older, close to 30, with a dry wit and a surprising head for numbers. She helps Cartwright with the household accounts. Josephine arrives next. She's the newest, still adjusting, her eyes often red from crying when no one's watching. Lily slips into the seat beside you last, her hair pinned up hastily, sleep still clinging to her features. "You nearly missed breakfast," you murmur, handing her the porridge pot. "Worth it," she whispers back with a sleepy smile. 10 more minutes under the blanket. The coffee here is another quiet indulgence, real coffee, not the chicory-laced imitation most working-class households endure. It's strong, hot, and sweetened with sugar if you want it. You cradle your cup in both hands, letting the heat seep into your fingers. The smell is rich, slightly bitter, comforting. Breakfast passes in a kind of soft hush. There's an unspoken rule: no talk of work this early in the day. The conversation stays light. The weather. A funny mishap with the butcher's delivery boy slipping in the alley. Speculation about whether the greengrocer's wife is expecting again. It's normal talk. Familiar talk. The kind of talk happening at countless tables all across London this morning. And that's important. It's grounding. A reminder that even in a brothel, life is still life. People still eat, chat, laugh, and settle into their routines. You feel yourself settle into it too. Shoulders drop. Breathing deepens. The food warms your stomach, fuels your body. You take another sip of coffee, letting the bitterness fill your mouth. Once breakfast is done, the day's work begins. The house follows a strict schedule. Each girl is assigned tasks, not just to keep things clean, but because Mrs. Cartwright believes that structure prevents disorder. Routine protects the house from the chaos that ruins lesser establishments. This morning, your duties include dusting the parlor and polishing the glassware at the bar. The tasks are simple, repetitive. Your hands stay busy while your mind is free to wander. There's something almost meditative in the work. Dusting, polishing, watching the surfaces change, dull to bright, clouded to clear. The parlor, the house's main reception room, is decorated in what one might call respectable elegance: dark wood furniture, red velvet upholstery, heavy curtains tied back to let in the dim London light. The art on the walls is chosen carefully, mostly landscapes. One classical painting featuring draped nymphs, tasteful, not explicit. Nothing that would raise alarm if a police officer were ever to step inside. It's all about maintaining appearances, keeping up the illusion. On the surface, this house is just a private residence, nothing more. Suspicious perhaps, but never overtly illegal. You work your way through the room. First with the feather duster for the larger areas, then with a damp cloth for the more delicate surfaces. The motions are familiar, automatic. They require just enough attention to quiet your thoughts, but not so much that you can't drift a little as you go. From nearby rooms, you can hear the hum of the house continuing. Mrs. Winters giving Betsy instructions on how to black the kitchen range. Cook humming a tuneless melody while she kneads bread dough. Lily's light footsteps overhead as she makes the beds. Sounds that could belong to any household. On the mantel, there's a little display of ornaments, a porcelain shepherdess, a small brass clock, 2 decorative urns. You dust each one carefully, setting them back in their exact positions. Mrs. Cartwright notices when things are even slightly out of place. The clock ticks softly, steady, and rhythmic. Through the window, you catch glimpses of the street beyond, a maid beating a rug in a nearby yard, a ginger cat picking its way along the top of a narrow garden wall, a boy sprinting down the alley clutching a message in one hand. You move on to the small bar cabinet in the corner. It's not grand, just a tidy cupboard holding a few bottles of spirits and a stack of glassware. Most customers are offered a glass of sherry or brandy upon arrival, a social courtesy to ease them into the evening's transaction. The glasses need polishing. London air leaves a dull film even on things not in use. You pick up each one, breathing gently on the surface before buffing it with a soft cloth. Circular motions, steady pressure. The glass squeaks faintly as it clears, catching the dim light in its facets. The repetition becomes almost hypnotic. Around and around. Your breathing sinks naturally to the rhythm. In with the motion, out with the finish. Your hands know just the right amount of pressure, firm enough to polish thoroughly, gentle enough to avoid breakage. The delicate crystal glasses gleam as you finish the last one, time slipping by peacefully while you work. The morning light shifts slowly across the parlor floor, casting moving patterns like soft waves. Your thoughts drift easily to small, unburdened things, what the afternoon might hold, the book you've been reading and stolen moments between duties, Dickens' latest, borrowed from Sarah, who gets them secondhand through a customer that owns a bookshop. You think about the ribbon you might buy for your hair if business is good this week. These are simple, present-focused thoughts, immediate and safe. You've learned, in this life, not to dwell too long on the past or worry too far ahead into a future that refuses to promise anything. This profession teaches you to live day by day, hour by hour, breath by breath. The sound of the front door opening and closing breaks the stillness, pulling you swiftly back into the room. You hear the solid weight of a man's footsteps, then Mrs. Cartwright's voice, lower than the tone she uses with the girls. "Good morning, doctor. Thank you for coming on such short notice. It's Wednesday, medical examination day. Once a week, the doctor visits to screen the girls for any signs of illness. It's one of Mrs. Cartwright's strictest policies and a key reason the house maintains its hard-earned reputation. Disease spreads fast in brothels, often devastating both the women and the men who pass through. But here, anyone showing symptoms is pulled from rotation and treated immediately. It's expensive in the short term, yes, but it safeguards the long-term stability of the business. You finish placing the last glass into the cabinet with care. The doctor's presence marks a shift in the day's rhythm. The rest of the morning will now be dictated by a quiet procession, each girl seen in turn, examined in Mrs. Cartwright's private sitting room, which becomes a makeshift clinic on Wednesdays. Results will be logged neatly in the small, locked notebook kept in her desk drawer. You carry the polishing cloth back to the kitchen, where Mrs. Winters is now overseeing Betsy as she slices vegetables, carrots, and onions for the midday stew. The fresh, earthy aroma of root vegetables blends with the warm, yeasty smell of bread rising nearby. "Parlor's done," you tell her. "Want me to help in here till the doctor calls?" She glances up from correcting Betsy's knife grip. "No need. He's starting with Josephine, then Lily. You've time to do your washing if you like." Laundry, like most things in this house, is carefully structured. Each girl is responsible for her own personal items, undergarments, cloths, stockings. The house laundress only handles linens, towels, and larger items. Wednesdays, before bathing, are when you usually take care of your things. You gather your laundry basket from the cupboard near the kitchen and carry it to the scullery in the back. The air is cooler here, the floor stone, the walls unadorned. A large porcelain sink sits beneath the window. You pump cold water into the copper basin, then add a kettle of hot water from the range to take off the edge. Washing by hand is a physical task, but a satisfying one. The rhythm of rubbing fabric against itself, the slow transformation from soiled to clean, it grounds you. You soap each item with care, working the lather between your fingers, rinsing thoroughly. The water turns cloudy, the bubbles catching morning light in faint rainbows. This quiet task gives your thoughts room to expand. The doctor's presence always stirs a kind of unease, not fear exactly, but awareness. A reminder of the constant risks women in this life carry. Illnesses that disfigure, disable, or slowly kill. You've seen it happen. A girl with a cough that never goes away. Sores that don't heal. The telltale signs that someone will soon vanish, perhaps to one of the city's charitable hospitals if they're lucky. Alone, without care, if they're not. So far, you've been careful. Mrs. Cartwright insists on precautions with every client. They're not foolproof, but they're better than nothing. And these weekly exams catch trouble early, when it can still be managed. Still, you know the truth that lingers beneath every breath. No one stays untouched forever. Few women last more than a handful of years in this work before something catches up with them. You wring out a cotton chemise, twisting it firmly to squeeze out the excess water. The muscles in your forearms flex with the motion. There's a strange pleasure in that sensation, strength, utility. Despite the soap and water, your hands are still smooth, well-tended. Another necessity of the trade. Clients don't want to feel rough, callous skin. Carrying the damp laundry, you step out into the tiny yard behind the house. A short stretch of flagstones runs from the back door to a wooden post, where a clothesline is strung. You hang each item carefully, using wooden pegs to clip them down against the breeze. It's cold out here, but dry, good drying weather, as long as the snow holds off. The yard is small, with only a few potted plants struggling against winter's chill. But it's open to the sky. And after the confines of the house, that openness feels like a small gift. You stop for a moment and just breathe. The air isn't fresh by any countryside standard, not in a city like this, where coal smoke and fog hang everywhere. But it's sharper than indoors, crisper somehow. You tilt your face toward the pale light, eyes closed, letting the weak winter sun touch your skin. A rare moment of uncomplicated physical pleasure. Just air. Just light. Your breathing deepens, naturally. Chest expanding more fully. That feels good. Just being, for a moment. The back door creaks open, and Lily pokes her head out. He's nearly done with me, she says. You're up next. She notices your upward gaze and adds, anything interesting in the sky today? You smile, lowering your eyes. Just the usual. Clouds. Sunday. A little freedom. She snorts, understanding the joke without needing it explained. Come on, then, before you freeze your toes off. Mrs. Winters is boiling water for tea, and Cook made those currant buns you like. The mention of warmth and food is too tempting to resist. You follow Lily inside, the heat of the kitchen wrapping around you like a woolen shawl. Your skin tingles pleasantly as the blood returns to your chilled fingers. The kitchen is the heart of the house. Always warm, always alive. It's nearly midday now, and food preparation is in full swing. Cook stands at the long table, arms dusted with flour to her elbows as she rolls out pastry dough for a meat pie. Mrs. Winters sits in her corner chair, darning a stocking with fine, even stitches. Betsy moves between them, observing, helping, learning. Lily pours you a mug of tea, and you wrap your hands around it, grateful for the warmth. Steam rises in thin curls, carrying a soft, slightly bitter aroma. You blow gently across the surface, watching the ripples expand outward, circles within circles. There's something soothing in that simplicity. Physics. Cause and effect. Predictable in a world that so rarely is. How was it? You ask quietly, referring to the exam. Lily shrugs. Same as always. Cold hands, a couple questions, straight into the book. All clear. She hesitates, then lowers her voice further. Josephine wasn't. I heard Cartwright say she's to rest for a week. Medicine 3 times a day. You nod, not surprised. Josephine's looked pale for days now, dark circles under her eyes, that nagging cough. It doesn't sound serious, not yet. But it's a reminder. A quiet whisper of what hangs over you all, every day. A bell rings from the front of the house, Mrs. Cartwright summoning the next girl. That's you, Lily says, biting into a currant bun. Don't worry. He's in a decent mood today. Barely poked at all. You set your tea down with a small sigh of regret. It had just reached the perfect temperature. The tea had just reached the perfect drinking temperature. But of course, the doctor won't wait. His time is valuable, and his services are in high demand at houses like this one all over the city. You make your way through the house toward Mrs. Cartwright's sitting room, automatically straightening your dress and smoothing your hair along the way. After 2 years in this life, those little gestures are second nature. Always present yourself properly, even for something as clinical and detached as a medical exam. The sitting room has been transformed for his visit. The rosewood desk has been cleared of its usual scattered papers and decorative ornaments, now covered with a clean white cloth. On top sit the tools of his trade: a stethoscope, small glass bottles containing various tinctures, a notebook, a freshly sharpened pencil. The plush armchair has been pushed aside, replaced with a plain wooden chair set directly in the best shaft of natural light from the window. Dr. Harrison is already there, a man of about 50, with neatly graying hair and a carefully trimmed beard. Unlike many doctors who serve this industry, he doesn't speak down to the women or treat the exams as punishment. His manner is direct but respectful, his touch clinical, never cruel. He wears a simple gold wedding ring, and once he mentioned having children in university. Sometimes, you wonder what his respectable family would think if they knew where he spent his Wednesday mornings. "Ah, Mary," he says, looking up from the basin where he's washing his hands. "How have you been keeping? Any concerns to report?" He always starts with that same question. A small thing, but it acknowledges your personhood. You're not just a body to be examined. Not entirely. And that little courtesy, minor though it may seem, matters more than it should. "Well enough. Thank you, doctor," you reply. "No concerns." He nods, drying his hands with a clean towel. "Good, good. Well then, shall we proceed?" Mrs. Cartwright sits quietly in the corner, acting as chaperone and to record the findings, though she positions herself so she doesn't witness the actual exam. It's another one of those small dignities she insists on, subtle but meaningful. The exam is brief but thorough. He checks your breathing, your pulse, your eyes and throat. Then comes the more intimate portion, quick, impersonal, his hands covered in thin gloves. You've long since learned to detach during this part. You let your mind drift. Think about the book waiting in your room, the taste of that currant bun still on your tongue, the way the winter sunlight felt on your face earlier in the yard. When it's done, he steps back and removes his gloves. "All appears to be in order," he says simply. "Continue as you are." He jots a quick note in his book and then gives a slight nod toward Mrs. Cartwright, who rises from her chair. In the hallway, she leans close and murmurs, "Send Sarah in next, please," before disappearing back inside. You make your way back to the kitchen, the slight hollowness from the examination lingering, not from pain or discomfort, but from something subtler. It's the strange disconnection that always follows being reduced to a list of bodily functions, measured and judged. Necessary, yes. Protective, even. But it still leaves a residue. A quiet emptiness. You pass the message along to Sarah, then return to your seat and reclaim your tea. It's cooled now, but the solid weight of the mug feels grounding in your hands. You take a long sip, then reach for one of the currant buns. It's still faintly warm. The currants are sweet, the dough soft. The comforting simplicity of it helps bring you back into your body, into the room. The hallway clock chimes noon. The morning has gone quickly, as it usually does on these busy days. Soon, the house will shift gears into its afternoon rhythm. There may be clients as early as 1 o'clock, businessmen sneaking in a midday visit, taking advantage of the quieter hours to avoid crowds and receive more attentive company. You brush the crumbs from your dress, sip the last of your tea, and decide there's still time for a quick stop upstairs before afternoon begins. Just enough to check your reflection. Maybe change into something slightly more polished than your morning work dress. The stairs creak beneath your feet in that familiar, well-worn way as you climb to the upper floor. The house has slipped into a rare midday hush, the brief interlude between morning chores and afternoon business. Even the street outside feels muted, as though the whole neighborhood is holding its breath. Your room welcomes you with its small, familiar details. It isn't grand, not by anyone's standard, but it's yours. The bed where your day began, the chest where your few possessions live, the window that gives you a sliver of sky. That sky means something. You catch your reflection in the mirror. cheeks still faintly flushed from the warmth of the kitchen, hair neat from earlier brushing. You look ordinary, just a young woman in a plain dress. Unremarkable. You could be anyone walking down the street. There's nothing about your face or clothes that marks you as one of society's fallen. No scarlet letter, no badge of shame. You allow yourself a dry, knowing smile. The hypocrisy still stings sometimes. How the same society that condemns women like you also builds the conditions that make this work inevitable, then supplies the very men who keep it profitable. But philosophy won't get you through the afternoon. You open the chest and pull out a different dress. Not the best one, that's saved for evening clients, but a step above what you've got on now. You choose a blue cotton dress with a modest lace collar. Respectable enough to blend in, just alluring enough to hint at something more. Changing is quick. You've done it 100 times. The new dress is lighter than your morning one, softer against your skin. You adjust your hair with a few well-placed pins, pinch your cheeks lightly for a natural flush. No cosmetics yet. Those are reserved for later, when illusion becomes a more elaborate performance. For now, the goal is subtlety. To preserve the fiction that this is chance, not commerce. You sit at the edge of the bed for a moment, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth, preparing for the shift from private self to professional self. The space between those two roles matters. It's the line that keeps a piece of you untouched. Your body feels grounded, calm, your mind focused. The bed beneath you is firm and familiar, a physical anchor. You run your hand over the rough blanket beside you, reminding yourself of the world that exists beyond the performance. Then, downstairs, the front door opens. Footsteps, voices. Mrs. Cartwright's practiced welcome. A man's deeper voice in reply. The afternoon has begun. You rise from the bed, smoothing the fabric of your dress one last time. You draw in a deep breath, lungs expanding fully, then let it out slowly. Your shoulders drop with the exhale, releasing tension like water. You're ready. The doorknob is cool beneath your fingers as you turn it. The hallway stretches out before you, leading toward the stairwell and the next part of the day. You move with purpose, each step balanced and sure. Your breath remains steady. Posture straight. Just like that, easy and calm, you descend into the afternoon. The afternoon stretches before you, full of unknowns. But your mind is grounded, anchored in the present moment. Your hand trails along the polished wood of the banister, its surface worn smooth by the passage of countless others before you. The house around you creaks softly, settling like a living thing with its own quiet rhythms, its own breath. And now you're part of that rhythm, flowing with it instead of against it. Each step matches the house's gentle pulse. Inhale, exhale, one moment at a time, one foot in front of the other. The parlor is already occupied when you reach the bottom of the stairs. Mrs. Cartwright stands near the fireplace, one hand resting with effortless grace on the edge of the mantel. She's speaking to a visitor, a man with his back to you, posture upright, bearing the telltale weight of middle age. His coat is dark and finely cut, but understated, businesslike. Likely a businessman, you think, judging by the way he holds himself. You pause at the doorway, waiting to be acknowledged. Mrs. Cartwright glances in your direction, then gives you the faintest of nods, permission to enter. "Ah, and here is Mary now," she says smoothly. "Mary, this gentleman was just asking." She doesn't finish the sentence. She doesn't need to. The man turns, confirming your impression, around 45, graying at the temples, with a complexion shaped by time spent outdoors. His expression is polite, but slightly uncertain, nervous, perhaps. Definitely a new customer. "How do you do, sir?" you say gently, dropping into a shallow curtsy. Just deep enough to show proper manners, but not so much as to appear meek. Your voice shifts naturally into a slightly softer, more refined tone. It's the voice you've trained over time, the professional one, honed by years of listening and observing. "Charles Wilson," he replies, bowing slightly in return. Likely not his real name, but that hardly matters. Many men choose aliases in houses like this. "Would you care for some refreshment, Mr. Wilson?" Mrs. Cartwright offers, gesturing gracefully toward the small bar, the one you'd polished that morning. "A glass of sherry, perhaps? Or brandy, if you prefer." It's part of the ritual. The offer of a drink helps maintain the illusion that this is a social visit, not a commercial exchange. Most men accept. It gives them a moment to settle their nerves, to observe the room, to get their bearings. Sherry would be most welcome, he replies, voice warm but still slightly guarded. Mrs. Cartwright crosses to the bar and pours with her usual elegant ease. You take the moment to study him more carefully. His clothes are of good material, but not new. Well worn, carefully kept. His hands are telling. Nails clean, trimmed, but the skin is rough in places. A man who sometimes works with his hands despite wearing a suit. A merchant, perhaps, or a shop owner who still hauls crates and writes ledgers. She hands him the glass, and with a brief nod to you both, excuses herself from the parlor. I'll leave you two to become acquainted, she says, voice smooth with practiced discretion. The blue room is available whenever you're ready. Then she disappears, shutting the door softly behind her. Now it's just the two of you. The fire crackles gently in the grate, casting dancing shadows on the parlor walls. Outside, London murmurs on. A distant cart wheel, the shout of a vendor, the long sigh of a passing train. Please, you say, gesturing toward the armchairs near the fire. Make yourself comfortable. He takes the nearest one, perching a little stiffly at first, hands wrapped around his glass. Nervous still, you settle into the chair opposite, arranging your skirts with a graceful motion that gives him space, that doesn't crowd. Not too close, not too eager. The dance has its steps, its cues. Is this your first visit to Mrs. Cartwright's establishment? You ask, though you already know the answer. He takes a sip of his sherry, then offers a sheepish smile. Is it that obvious? You allow yourself a soft smile in return. Not at all. I simply haven't had the pleasure of your company before. And I know all our regulars. That eases him a little. He leans back slightly, shoulders relaxing just enough to reveal that he's feeling less like a stranger and more like a guest. Yes, he says, it's my first time. A business associate recommended the address. Said it was respectable. Ah, that word. Respectable. So vital in a world that thrives on appearances. The word that lets men like Mr. Wilson justify visits like this without admitting to themselves what they're really buying. Mrs. Cartwright runs a very proper house. You agree evenly. Everything here is conducted with discretion and with taste. He nods and takes another drink. You notice his hand is no longer trembling. The ritual is working. The small talk, the fire, the low lighting, it's all doing what it's meant to do. For all its secrecy, this work has its own quiet choreography. Predictable, even comforting in its structure. And you, Miss Mary, was it? Have you been here long? The question is a familiar one. Sometimes it's curiosity. Sometimes it's a subtle gauge of experience. Other times, it's just an attempt to humanize the exchange. Nearly 2 years, you answer honestly. No need to elaborate. The number says enough. You talk for several more minutes. Light topics, surface-level things. The weather. The latest exhibition at the Crystal Palace. A vague mention of his work, something to do with tea and spices. You don't press for details. He doesn't offer them. That's not what this is about. You're simply building enough of a bridge to cross into what comes next. You study him as he speaks, his tone, his pace, the subtle way his shoulders move. He's reserved, but not withdrawn. His eyes meet yours when he speaks. They don't dart away like some men's. You sense loneliness in him. Not hunger, not dominance, just a quiet ache for warmth. He could be a widower, or maybe a husband whose wife has been ill for years. Either way, he's looking for something gentler than the act itself. He finishes his sherry. You sense the moment shift. Would you care to continue our conversation somewhere more private, Mr. Wilson? You ask gently. He sets his empty glass on the small table, then looks up with a nod. Yes, I believe I would. You rise first, your movements fluid. The heat from the fire has loosened your limbs, made everything feel more natural, more alive. You extend your hand, not as a command, but as an invitation. This way, then. He accepts your hand briefly as he stands, then releases it. You lead him from the parlor, through the quiet hallway, and up the stairs. The blue room awaits. It's not anyone's personal space, just a neutral, shared room reserved for afternoon appointments. It's modestly appointed but warm, with a clean bed, a washstand, and a small chest containing the necessary things. The transaction itself is uneventful. Mr. Wilson is gentle, polite. He doesn't rush. He doesn't demand. He's grateful for the touch, the attention, the illusion of being seen. He stays for the full hour he paid for, but only part of that is spent on the act. The rest is spent in stillness. His head rests lightly on your shoulder. Your fingers stroke his hair in silence. This too, you understand, is part of what he's bought. The illusion of intimacy, of tenderness, of being cared for, even if just for an hour. The hour is up. You don't have to say anything. Mrs. Cartwright's hallway clock chimes softly, signaling the end without need for awkward words. Mr. Wilson rises and dresses, not rushed, but with quiet purpose, preserving a sense of propriety even within a space built on transgression. There's dignity in how he moves. "Thank you," he says simply as he straightens his coat. Then he presses a small coin into your palm. Not large, but more than required. A gesture, a tip, a moment of gratitude. "You've been very kind." "It was my pleasure," you reply automatically, the professional phrase rolling easily off your tongue. But this time, it's not entirely rehearsed. In the world you live in, Mr. Wilson qualifies as a good client. Respectful, clean, uncomplicated. That, in this life, is no small thing. You walk him to the top of the stairs, where Mrs. Winters appears, timing as impeccable as always, to quietly escort him the rest of the way down. Her presence ensures that he won't encounter another guest on his way out. Discretion and a sense of exclusivity are as much a part of the house's reputation as its comfort. Once he's gone, you return to the blue room. Now comes the part of the work no client ever sees, the reset. You strip the bed efficiently, bundling the used sheets and pillowcase for laundry. From the chest, you take out a clean set, shaking out the fitted sheet and smoothing it over the mattress with practiced precision. The pillow is redressed, the corners squared. Every touch is routine, familiar. At the washstand, you take the cloth and water provided to clean yourself thoroughly, your body, your skin, your breath all returning to baseline. It's not just hygiene. It's mental, emotional, personal. A ritual that separates one encounter from the next. A way of drawing a line. Every man remains distinct, every act contained. You dump the used water into the slop bucket beneath the stand. It'll be emptied later by Betsy, and refill the basin with fresh water from the pitcher. The towels are straightened. The small bar of soap is repositioned neatly on its dish. In the mirror above the chest, your face greets you. Your hair is slightly mussed. You fix it with a few quick strokes of your fingers. There's a faint crease in your dress where Mr. Wilson gripped the fabric. You smooth it out with your palm. Your reflection doesn't surprise you. It's still you. The same face. The same eyes. A little more tired, perhaps, but still familiar. There's a quiet peace to this moment. The pause between performances, like a breath between sentences. You stand still, letting your body ground itself again. The solid feel of the floor beneath your feet. The distant clatter from the kitchen. A muffled voice downstairs. The soft tick of the hallway clock. Inhale. Exhale. Your shoulders lower as you let the tension slip away. This too is part of the job, learning how to let go. Not carrying one customer into the next. That's it. Easy now. The clock strikes 3. Afternoon continues to advance. You gather the used linens and carry them down the back staircase to the scullery, where they're added to the growing pile waiting for Theris, the laundress, who'll arrive in the morning. Back in the kitchen, you find Lily and Emily sitting together, sharing a pot of tea. They glance up as you enter. "Wilson?" Lily asks, sliding a clean cup toward you. You nod, pouring yourself some tea. "New, isn't he?" She nods. "Seems decent enough. Widower, I think. Tea merchant, maybe." These brief exchanges are routine, part gossip, part safety check. Knowing a little about each visitor makes the work more manageable, less unpredictable. "Better than my afternoon," Emily mutters with a grimace. Old Mr. Peterson again. 45 minutes talking about his snuffbox collection, 5 minutes of the most mechanical, well, you know, and those awful lozenges he sucks on. The whole room smelled of mint and regret. You smile sympathetically as you sink into a chair. The sturdy wooden seat feels good after being on your feet. At least Peterson, for all his dullness, is fast. Small mercies. Emily agrees with a tired laugh. There's comfort in this camaraderie. A kind of solidarity, even in competition. Within these walls, among these women, you don't have to explain or justify. Everyone understands what it takes to do this work. The silence, the masks, the constant recalibration. You can speak openly. That kind of understanding is rare and precious. The kitchen is warm. a relief after the cool formality of the blue room. Cook moves through her preparations for dinner, slicing vegetables with rhythmic precision. The sound of her knife tapping against the cutting board is steady, grounding. A second loaf of bread bakes in the oven, and the air is rich with the scent of flour and yeast and heat. You sip your tea slowly, feeling the warmth expand in your chest. It's good tea, another one of the house's small luxuries. Mrs. Cartwright knows that comfort reduces conflict. Girls who feel cared for work better, stay longer, and cause fewer problems. The food here is simple, but filling, and served reliably. That alone sets this house apart. Anyone else booked this afternoon? You ask, reaching for a slice of seed cake from the center of the table. Lily shakes her head. Quiet. Sarah had someone earlier. Josephine's still resting, per the doctor. Cartwright's in her office, doing the accounts. You nod. A quiet afternoon isn't a bad thing. The real money comes after dark, when the offices close and the gentlemen leave their clubs, seeking diversion. You break off a small piece of the seed cake, savoring the rich, slightly sweet flavor. Cook makes it dense, but never dry. The caraway seeds give it a bite, aromatic, just a little spicy. I might head out for a bit. You say once you've finished the last bite. Need hairpins. And more writing paper. Short errands like this are encouraged. Mrs. Cartwright believes fresh air, occasional contact with ordinary life, helps keep the girls balanced. So long as you're back before the evening rush, there's no objection. Lily and Emily both shake their heads when you ask if they want anything. You rinse your cup, then head upstairs to fetch your shawl and small leather purse. Inside are the tips you've saved, along with the modest weekly allowance Mrs. Cartwright gives each girl. Enough for soap, ribbons, the occasional pastry. Not much, but enough. Your shawl is dark wool, plain, but warm. It doesn't mark you as different from any other shopgirl or seamstress on the street. You wrap it around your shoulders, its familiar scratchiness oddly comforting. It grounds you, reminds you of your body, your presence, your control. Outside, the street is full of life. Carts clatter over cobblestones. Maids run errands. Vendors call out their wares. You step into that stream of motion like a drop into the current, indistinguishable from those around you. There's a quiet freedom in that anonymity. For a little while, you're not anyone in particular. Just another young woman with a basket and a purpose, walking through the afternoon. The uneven pavement shifts underfoot as you walk, your breathing deepening naturally with the rhythm of movement. The cool air feels sharp and clean against your skin after the enclosed warmth of the house. Your first stop is the haberdashery, a small shop tucked tightly between a greengrocer and a bookbinder. The bell above the door jingles as you enter, and the proprietress glances up from her stitching, spectacles perched at the end of her nose. "Afternoon, miss," she says, voice neutral but not unfriendly. "What can I get for you today?" "Hairpins, please," you reply. "The black ones, medium size." She nods and bends to retrieve a small box from beneath the counter. 6 pence for a dozen. Good quality. These won't bend like the cheap ones. You count the coins carefully before handing them over. Not because money is tight right now, but because frugality is second nature. You learned thrift by necessity, and the habit hasn't faded. She wraps the pins neatly in a paper packet and passes them across the counter with a businesslike nod. Your next stop is the stationer's, 3 streets away. Here, you purchase a slim packet of writing paper, a few envelopes, and a new pencil. The elderly man behind the counter is more chatty than the haberdasher. He comments on the weather, then asks casually if the paper is for writing to a sweetheart. You smile, offering a polite, non-committal reply, easily slipping into the role of a respectable young woman running errands. Because for a few minutes, you are. These brief exchanges with the outside world carry their own strange sweetness. The illusion of normalcy, of ordinariness. For a few blocks, walking these familiar streets, you could be anyone, a shopgirl, a governess, a daughter fetching supplies for her family. But the illusion has its limits, its borders. There are places you don't enter, streets you don't stroll down. The elegant tea room where ladies meet for cakes and gossip is not for you. And the looming church with its pointed spire always seems to watch with invisible judgment. Even in anonymity, you are never entirely unseen. Your final stop is the bakery. A small indulgence awaits, a jam tart, its pastry warm, the strawberry filling still slightly molten. You eat it as you walk, savoring each bite, licking a spot of jam from your fingertip with quiet satisfaction. These are the luxuries of your world, not gowns or jewels, but fleeting sweetness and solitude. Your walk back to the house is slower, more relaxed. You're in no hurry. The fresh air and physical movement feel good after a morning largely spent inside. Your body moves easily, muscles working in familiar concert. Every step flexes joints, stretches limbs. Your lungs expand. Your heart beats steadily. Your eyes drink in the textured chaos of the London street. Horse-drawn carts, children darting between doorways, laundry flapping from lines. You're not thinking. You're just being. And that, too, is its own kind of peace. By the time you return to the house, the day has shifted toward its next act. The light is changing, richer now, edging toward amber. Shadows stretch longer across the cobbles. The air takes on that golden weight that always comes just before sunset. You unlock the front door with your key. Every girl in the house has one, another small sign of Mrs. Cartwright's trust and her tight organization. You step inside. The house feels different now. Charged. Electric with quiet activity. Evening preparations have begun. You can hear movement overhead, doors opening and closing, voices calling out, footsteps hurried but not frantic. The day's soft rhythm is giving way to the evening's pulse. Mrs. Winters intercepts you in the hallway, her expression, as ever, stern, slightly disapproving, even when she has no specific grievance. "There you are," she says. "Mrs. Cartwright wants everyone ready by 7 sharp. We've had several messages. Could be a busy evening." You nod, already shifting your plans. "I'll get started," you reply. "Has Cook said when dinner will be?" 5:30. Early tonight, because of the bookings. Her eyes flick down to the small packages in your hands. "Got what you needed?" You hold up the packet of hairpins in quiet confirmation. "Yes, thank you." She nods once, approving, and continues down the hall toward the kitchen. Her keys jingle softly at her waist as she walks. She doesn't dislike you. She doesn't particularly like you either. She's just doing her job, and part of that means maintaining a firm line between herself and the women she oversees. Upstairs, the atmosphere is busy but focused. Doors are open. The girls move from room to room, borrowing brushes, mirrors, perfume. Voices rise and fall in a chorus of shared anticipation. You enter your room and find Lily already half-dressed in her evening attire, twisting awkwardly to reach the buttons at the back of her green silk dress. "Help?" she asks with a sheepish smile. You set down your things and cross the room. Your fingers work nimbly over the fabric-covered buttons, each one closing with a soft click. "Thanks," she sighs. "Figured I'd get a head start if tonight's going to be busy." "Good thinking," you reply, stepping back to look at her. "That green suits you. Brings out your eyes." She turns toward the mirror, checking her reflection. Her auburn hair is already styled in a more elaborate updo, bulked up with borrowed hairpieces for volume and curl. "Do you think it's too much?" she asks, adjusting a strand. "Not at all," you say. "Elegant, but not overdone. Just right." These small exchanges matter. Compliments, reassurances, they're part of the ritual. The clothes you wear in the evening are costumes. Uniforms. They signal transformation, from ordinary women to something softer, shinier, more carefully composed. Lily slips out to finish getting ready elsewhere. You begin your own preparation. First, a proper washing, more thorough than the quick cleanup after Mr. Wilson. The water in the basin is cold now, but still refreshing. You splash your face and neck, then use a cloth to clean the rest of your body. The chill lifts your skin and goosebumps. It's not unpleasant. It reminds you you're alive. You open the chest at the foot of your bed and draw out your evening dress. A deep blue silk, slightly faded but still graceful. The color sets off your dark hair and eyes. The cut flatters your shape without being provocative. It's one of 3 such gowns you rotate carefully, preserving their quality. Good clothes are an investment in this line of work. They help draw a better class of client. They suggest taste, refinement, control. Dressing is a process. You begin with fresh undergarments, a fine cotton chemise and drawers, a quiet luxury compared to the rough fabrics of your seamstress days. Then the corset, which you fasten in the front and rotate before tightening the laces at the back. Not too tight. You still need to breathe, to move, but tight enough to sculpt the silhouette expected of you. The petticoats go on next, adding shape and fullness to the base of your blue silk dress. which settles over them like the final layer of a carefully constructed confection. There's a quiet satisfaction in this deliberate building of appearance, a process that grounds you in sensation and purpose. The corset hugs your waist with measured firmness. The petticoats swish softly against your legs. The silk, cool and smooth, glides along your arms with every movement. You are crafting an image, one you know how to wear like second skin. Next comes the hair. You take down the simple knot worn throughout the day and brush the dark waves until they gleam under the fading light. The new hairpins, still crisp from the shop, are put to immediate use as you twist and arrange your hair into something more polished, neater, more formal. It's not the elaborate coiffure of a titled lady with a personal maid, but it's lovely. A few gentle curls frame your face while the rest is secured in an elegant knot at the back. A light touch of cosmetics completes the transformation. Nothing showy. Mrs. Cartwright is firm on that point. Just a bit of rice powder to smooth and even the skin, a subtle blush for the cheeks, and a hint of color on the lips, carefully blended to avoid any trace of artifice. The result is a version of yourself just slightly elevated, a fresher, more luminous reflection. The final detail is scent, not the heavy perfumes used in lesser establishments, but a delicate lavender water dabbed gently at pulse points, wrists, behind the ears, at the hollow of your throat. It rises softly with the heat of your body, clean and pleasant, masking any remnants of the day without overwhelming. You step back and assess yourself in the mirror. The transformation is complete. No longer just a working woman. You now carry the impression of refinement, of quiet allure. Not nobility. That illusion wouldn't hold, but something polished, poised. A woman of cultivated charms. Someone worth the time, worth the coin. The hallway clock chimes 5:30. Dinner. As you descend the stairs, the silk dress rustles with each step, its weight shifting your posture into something straighter, more deliberate. Evening where changes not just how you look, but how you move. Every step becomes part of the performance. Dinner is served in the formal dining room rather than the kitchen, a small shift that signals the start of the evening's second act. The table is set with clean linen and modest, but respectable cutlery. Mrs. Cartwright joins the girls for this meal, seated at the head in a dark purple silk dress, every line of her posture reinforcing her authority. Her presence is a signal. This is not a family, but a business, and one that prides itself on excellence. The food is simple but hearty, a savory beef stew filled with vegetables, fresh bread still warm from the oven, and rice pudding with raisins for dessert. A glass of wine accompanies the meal, not enough to cloud the senses, but just enough to ease tension and create a little warmth in the belly. Conversation drifts easily around the table. There's a rhythm to these meals, shared moments before the solitude of work begins. You're seated between Sarah and Emily, with Lily across from you. Josephine is absent, still recovering under the doctor's instructions. I heard Mr. Henderson might show up tonight, Emily remarks as she tears off a piece of bread. Haven't seen him in weeks. Business trip to Glasgow, I think, Sarah replies, spearing a bit of stew. He usually comes on Thursdays. This kind of information sharing is part social, part strategic. Who's expected? Who hasn't been seen? Who requested whom? This is knowledge that helps you all prepare. The men you serve become part of a communal narrative, their habits and quirks woven into the fabric of house life. Mrs. Cartwright listens more than she speaks, occasionally correcting a name or providing context the others don't know. Her role is layered: employer, protector, disciplinarian, mentor. She maintains a boundary, but without malice. As the meal winds down, she stands, signaling the transition to evening proper. As Mrs. Winters may have mentioned, she begins. We've had several confirmed appointments for tonight, and quite possibly more casual visitors. She glances down the table, making eye contact with each of you. Mr. Harrington has requested Emily specifically. Mr. Lawrence and Mr. Benson are expected around 8, both open to whomever is available. There may be others. Several messages suggested additional inquiries. She pauses, her gaze deliberate. I expect everyone to conduct themselves with the usual grace and decorum. Remember, it's not the number of customers that builds our reputation. It's the quality of attention we provide. The subtext is clear. Busy nights are good for the purse, but the standards must never falter. That's what separates this house from the others. That's what keeps its doors open and its rooms full. As Betsy and Cook begin clearing plates, Mrs. Cartwright makes her final announcement. I'll be in my office for the next hour, then in the parlor to receive guests. Good evening, ladies. Her gown rustles elegantly as she exits. For a few minutes, the girls linger, finishing the last sips of wine, stretching that final moment of ease before the work begins in earnest. You take another slow sip, letting the fruity warmth trail down your throat. Your body is relaxed, full, ready. The dining room glows with a quiet, enveloping warmth. Your chair supports you with familiarity. You take a breath, in through your nose, out through your mouth, steady, grounded. Eventually, the others rise, returning to their rooms to complete their preparations, or heading to the parlor to tidy a final detail. Some go to the kitchen for a last cup of tea. You remain seated just a moment longer, savoring the stillness within the growing hum of the house. Then, slowly, you rise. The weight of the silk dress shifts around you again. Your body moves with practiced ease. Your shoulders square. Your balance centers. You're ready. The evening lies ahead, its contours still undefined. There will be customers, some familiar, some new. There will be performances of charm, of wit, of want. There will be silence and talk, touch and pretense, connection and distance. But that's all later. For now, it's the transition, the shift in role, the change in state. You walk down the hall toward the parlor, each footstep deliberate, each breath measured. The rustle of blue silk trails behind you like a whispered melody. Your hand grazes the wallpapered wall, feeling its faint texture. Present, centered, poised in this exact moment. Just like that, easy and calm. The parlor has transformed. Heavy curtains drawn to shut out the London dusk. Gas lamps turned low, casting a warm, inviting glow. A bright fire crackles in the hearth, sending golden light across the room. The perpetual London chill lingers even inside, though the fire does its best to push it back. A decanter of sherry and several delicate glasses rest on a small table nearby, joined by a dish of sugared almonds and some elegant biscuits, small touches of refinement that help complete the illusion. Sarah is already in the parlor when you arrive, artfully reclined on one of the worn but still dignified velvet sofas. Her evening dress is a deep burgundy that suits her fair skin perfectly. Her blonde hair is swept up into an elaborate style, adorned with tiny pearl pins that catch the warm light. She looks up as you enter, her gaze moving over you with a practiced eye. You look well, she says, nodding. The blue brings out your eyes. Thank you, you reply, settling into one of the armchairs. The upholstery is soft beneath your hands, the fabric faded but still plush. The room is still, quiet. Sarah nods again. It's early. Mrs. Cartwright says the first booking isn't until 8. She smooths her skirt with absent-minded precision. Might be a slow start, but it should pick up. End of the month, gentlemen just got paid. Practical and observant, Sarah still carries the instincts from her days working at a draper's shop. It's part of why Mrs. Cartwright trusts her with the books. She knows patterns, when customers will come, what they'll spend, what they're looking for. The two of you chat while waiting. Nothing heavy. A new shop that's open nearby. Speculation on whether Cook's persistent cough needs a doctor. Whether the coal order will actually show up tomorrow. Domestic concerns. Mundane rhythms. The same sort of conversation that might be heard in any parlor, in any respectable household. Gradually, the others filter in. Emily arrives in a pale green dress that offsets her dark curls beautifully. Lily follows, wearing a jewel-toned emerald gown that deepens the brightness of her auburn hair. Even Josephine joins, though she's been told not to entertain tonight. She's there simply for presence, for conversation and charm, possibly laying the groundwork for future business. Mrs. Winters brings in tea, another ritual of the evening. This isn't the plain earthenware used during the day, but fine china, thin porcelain cups, translucent when held to the lamp. The tea itself is unchanged, but the vessel's elevated. These details matter. They create the atmosphere Mrs. Cartwright so carefully curates. You cradle your cup, feeling the gentle heat through the porcelain. The rim presses lightly against your lips as you sip. The ritual, the weight of the cup, the temperature of the tea, the careful movement of your hand anchors you. It signals the mental shift from waiting to readiness. The conversation around you flows easily, pleasant, unforced. You sit comfortably, back straight, shoulders relaxed, chin lifted just so. The corset supports you without pinching. The silk of your dress feels soft against your skin. You are both relaxed and alert. The hallway clock chimes 8. Its steady toll spreads through the house. And then, right on cue, a knock at the door. Mrs. Cartwright steps into the parlor, her purple silk rustling with purpose. "Emily, Mr. Harrington has arrived. He's asked for you specifically." Emily sets her cup down with practiced grace and rises smoothly, following Mrs. Cartwright from the room. The transaction, the money, the requests, the boundaries will be handled in the madam's office, out of sight. Then Emily will take her client upstairs to her private space. Not the blue room used for daytime clients, but her own room, prepared with fresh linens, a small vase of flowers, perhaps a drop of perfume warming in the lamp. The rest of you remain, the conversation continuing but with a new undercurrent. The evening has officially begun. Any moment now, another knock, another name. Sure enough, within 10 minutes, the door sounds again. This time it's Sarah who's called, Mr. Lawrence, punctual as ever, and for his usual Tuesday visit. Lily leans toward you, her voice low. "Heard from Cook there's someone new tonight. Wealthy. Banker or something." Cartwright made sure the good sherry was out. You nod slightly. "Did she say anything else?" "Only that he came on a recommendation. Someone Cartwright trusts." Before you can reply, another knock cuts through the room. Mrs. Cartwright enters once again, her expression unreadable. "Mary." You rise, placing your teacup down with precision, smoothing your skirts. Your muscles move with ease. Your posture straightens instinctively. Each step across the parlor is measured and sure, the silk of your dress whispering with movement. In the hallway, Mrs. Cartwright stands beside a gentleman you haven't met before. He's tall, perhaps in his late 30s, with a look of well-fed prosperity. His posture is confident but not arrogant. His clothes are understated, clearly tailored, made of quality materials that speak of money without shouting it. "Mary, this is Mr. Hamilton," Mrs. Cartwright says smoothly. "Mr. Hamilton, allow me to present Mary, one of our most accomplished young ladies." You offer a slight curtsy, your smile practiced but warm. "A pleasure to meet you, Mr. Hamilton." He takes your hand, his grip firm but not forceful. His eyes, a cool gray, take you in with interest, not the leering hunger you sometimes see, but measured, discerning. "The pleasure is mine," he replies. Mrs. Cartwright gestures toward her office. "If you'll step this way for a moment, Mr. Hamilton, we'll settle the details." "Mary, would you wait in the parlor?" You nod, returning to your seat. Lily arches an eyebrow as you re-enter. "The new one." You nod again. "Seems the respectable sort. Banker or lawyer, I'd guess. Expensive taste, but subtle about it." Lily hums her agreement. "Those types usually want more. Ambience. Conversation. The sense that it's something different. Not just the transaction." Within minutes, Mrs. Cartwright reappears, Mr. Hamilton by her side. "Mary, would you be so kind as to show Mr. Hamilton to your room? I believe you'll find you have much in common to discuss." Her choice of words is deliberate, an indication that he's paid not only for time, but for something more personal. Conversation. Presence. The illusion of companionship. You rise again, your smile gentle, your tone inviting. "Would you care for a glass of sherry first, Mr. Hamilton? Or shall we head upstairs directly?" "I believe I would enjoy a glass," he replies, his voice confirming your earlier guess, educated, polished, upper middle class. You pour 2 glasses from the decanter. As you hand him his, your fingers brush his, a soft and subtle touch. Calculated. Intimate. The first layer of connection. He holds your gaze for a brief moment and smiles. Just a touch. He's not uncomfortable with that kind of gesture. That's useful to know. The conversation begins lightly, touching on safe topics, the unseasonably cold weather, a recent concert at the Albert Hall he had attended, a general remark about the increasing congestion on London streets. You respond with just the right mix of insight and deference, enough to seem engaged and interesting, but never threatening to his image of himself as the more worldly, informed party. It's a practiced balance, a careful orchestration of dialogue where he feels in control, admired, and understood. Your body language plays its part, leaning in slightly to signal attention, maintaining gentle eye contact, offering timely smiles that seem spontaneous. All of it deliberate, all of it natural in execution. When his glass is empty and your own is still half full, you never drink much while working, you rise smoothly. "Shall we continue our conversation somewhere more comfortable, Mr. Hamilton?" You offer. He nods, standing with easy confidence. "Lead the way, my dear." Your room is on the 2nd floor, at the back of the house. Small, but meticulously arranged to create a sense of warmth and intimacy. The bed dominates the space, larger and more luxurious than your sleeping cot, adorned with fresh linens and a scattering of pillows. A modest fire flickers in the hearth, taking the edge off the evening chill. The washstand gleams with a pitcher of clean water, fresh towels, and a bar of quality soap. A folding screen provides a sliver of privacy. The gas lamp casts a flattering glow across the room, softening harsh lines and creating a comforting ambience. A small vase of hothouse flowers, an indulgence Mrs. Cartwright insists on for evening clients, adds fragrance and a pop of delicate color. Mr. Hamilton takes it in with an approving nod. "Charming," he says, surveying the room. "Quite charming." "Thank you," you respond, closing the door gently behind you. "Please, make yourself comfortable." What follows unfolds in familiar sequence. More conversation, gradually shifting toward the personal. The subtle transition from words to touch. An unspoken negotiation of boundaries, limits, and permissions. The physical act itself, carried out with practiced skill and apparent ease. Mr. Hamilton, to his credit, is attentive and respectful, not rough or careless, but deliberate and considerate, as if aware that even intimacy, when bought, deserves gentleness. Afterward, he doesn't rush away. He lingers beside you, an arm casually draped around your waist. The sheets are tangled, the fire low. "You're very good at what you do," he says, not leering or lascivious, but thoughtful, as though noting a skill well honed. "Thank you," you reply simply. There's no use pretending otherwise. You are good at this work, just as you were once good at sewing, learning the necessary skills with dedication and attention to detail. "How did you come to be here?" he asks after a beat, voice soft but sincere. "You seem different from what I expected." This question arises often, especially from new clients. Most are fishing for a story that fits a familiar script. The innocent ruined, the tragic fall, the repressed woman who discovered forbidden passion. You could give them that, many girls do. But something about his tone feels genuinely curious, not exploitative. "I was a seamstress," you tell him plainly. The pay wasn't enough to survive on. 16-hour days, bad lighting, bleeding fingers in winter, and still not enough for rent or food. You pause. This pays better. The hours are shorter. The conditions more humane. He's silent for a moment, absorbing that. So, a rational economic decision. Yes, you agree. Though it's not one society likes to call rational. This exchange seems to pique his interest. He shifts onto one elbow, studying you more closely. "Do you find it paradoxical," he asks, "that a transaction so rooted in supply and demand is met with such moral outrage?" The conversation turns, unexpectedly, into something real. A sincere discussion of economics, morality, gender, and social judgment. He doesn't talk down to you, doesn't condescend. You answer with clarity and confidence, revealing more of your intellect than you typically allow customers to see. It's refreshing, stimulating. Eventually, the hallway clock chimes the hour. The time has passed quickly. Mr. Hamilton sighs and sits up, a wry smile playing on his lips. "I've spent more time talking than I intended," he says as he begins to dress. "Though I don't regret it." "Nor do I," you reply with unexpected honesty. It was unusually pleasant. It had been gentle physically and mentally engaging, an uncommon combination. "You're welcome to return," you add, the standard phrase, though it carries more truth than usual. Fully dressed now, he retrieves a coin from his waistcoat and places it delicately on the table beside the bed, not directly into your hand. For the conversation, he says simply. You nod. "Thank you." You don't reach for it immediately. The gesture, more than the money, lingers. "Perhaps I'll return next week, if that would be convenient." "I'd be delighted," you reply, your voice smooth but genuine. With a final smile and a polite bow, he takes his leave. You hear his footsteps on the stairs, followed by Mrs. Winters greeting him in the hallway. She will see him out discreetly, making sure no other clients cross his path, maintaining the illusion of privacy and exclusivity. Alone now, you begin the routine of resetting the room. Washing, folding, linoning. The tasks are familiar, requiring little conscious thought. Your hands move automatically, muscle memory guiding you through the sequence. The stripping of the sheets, the quick basin wash, the fluffing of pillows and smoothing of fabric. Your thoughts linger on the encounter, not in a sentimental way, just observation. Mr. Hamilton had been different, more present, more thoughtful. He spoke to you like a person, like someone worth listening to. Rare, but not unprecedented. Still, you know better than to romanticize it. He paid for your time, your company, your body. The fact that he used some of that time for genuine conversation doesn't change the nature of the transaction. That's not bitterness. That's clarity. A survival tool. Knowing where the real lines lie keeps you grounded. You check the mirror. Hair slightly mussed, a few pins out of place, a bit of color needed on your lips. Nothing too disheveled. A moment's work to restore the image. Before you return downstairs, you allow yourself a pause. Standing in the center of the room, feet planted firmly, you breathe. In slowly through your nose. Out through your mouth. Deep, even breaths that expand your chest gently beneath the corset. You relax your shoulders, your jaw, the tiny muscles around your eyes. This deliberate stillness, this act of centering, is a final step. A necessary one. It separates one encounter from the next, keeps you from becoming unmoored. And just like that, you're ready again. The encounter with Mr. Hamilton is behind you now. Whoever comes next hasn't arrived yet. What fills the space between is this breath, this quiet moment of simply being yourself. You feel the firm press of the floorboards under your feet, the subtle whisper of air gliding across your skin, the rise and fall of your chest as breath cycles in and out. Fully present, firmly grounded, entirely centered. The hallway clock chimes the half hour, a gentle summons back to the flow of time. You open your eyes, take a final, centering breath, and move toward the door. The silk of your dress whispers softly with your movement, a subtle accompaniment to your steady, graceful steps. Your hand rests firmly on the doorknob, your posture aligned, collected, and poised, ready for whatever, or whomever, is next. As you descend the staircase, the house hums with life. Multiple voices rise and mingle from various rooms. The low murmur of conversations, the occasional soft laugh, the distinct clinking of glassware. Business is in motion now, the delicate choreography of supply and desire, fantasy and commerce, played out behind closed doors. In the parlor, you find Lily rearranging the sherry glasses and adjusting the sofa cushions with brisk efficiency. She looks up as you enter, her expression brightening. There you are. How was the banker man? Cook was right about him being flush. Did you catch the gold chain on that watch? You settle onto the sofa beside her, your body sinking into its softness with practiced ease. He was fine, you reply. Talkative. Intelligent. He might turn into a regular. She nods, understanding all the implications wrapped up in those few spare words. Lucky you. I had old Mr. Watson again. You know, the one with the wandering hands and those peppermint drops he sucks on all night. Breathes like a steam engine, that one. The conversation flows easily, a mix of practical debriefing and workplace camaraderie. It offers comfort in its familiarity, in the shared shorthand of women who live this life together. There is no need to explain, to justify, or defend. Just a mutual, unspoken understanding. The fire in the grate has dwindled into a more mellow glow, casting soft shadows across the room. Lily rises to add another log, her movements fluid from repetition. The flame flares up, then settles into a steady burn. You watch the dance of the firelight, your gaze softening, thoughts slowing. The warmth reaches you even at a distance, curling gently around your limbs. The parlor smells of wood smoke, of sherry, of the faint perfumes each girl wears, and the lingering floral scent of the house's signature arrangements. These are familiar smells, comforting in their predictability. Your body feels well used, but not overtaxed. A gentle fatigue that settles into your muscles without weight. The corset supports rather than constrains. The silk dress glides smoothly against your skin. Evening slippers replace the day's sturdier boots, your feet now tucked beneath you on the sofa. The stillness between customers becomes another precious interval of privacy. You are not required to perform or respond, simply to exist. Your breathing slows, deepens. Lily returns to her seat beside you, her posture similarly unguarded. Quiet night for late November, she says softly. Weather, maybe? That earlier rain was brutal. You nod, glancing at the curtained windows, where the tap of intermittent raindrops is barely audible. Could pick up again later. Might catch the theater crowd. These brief discussions of business flow naturally into the evening's rhythm. Reading signs, anticipating patterns, preparing for what might come. Rain, payday, special events. They all influence who knocks on the door and when. Conversation drifts to softer topics. Emily's new dress. Speculation about Josephine's recovery. Cook's hopeful mention of roast chicken for Sunday. Mundane details, small predictions. Domestic chatter, easy and grounding. Time passes, marked only by the steady tick of the mantel clock and the deepening glow of the fire. Your body is loose and at ease. Your thoughts float without urgency. This, too, is a kind of sanctuary. The breathing of the house merges with your own, the rustle of skirts, the muffled creak of a floorboard, Lily shifting slightly beside you. Then, the door knocker sounds again. Another customer has arrived. Both of you straighten a touch, the familiar pull of work tightening the space around you. You hear Mrs. Cartwright in the hallway, her voice warm and practiced, welcoming. She appears in the doorway a moment later. Mary, a gentleman has asked for your company. Are you available? You rise, the silk of your dress falling into place with that signature softness. Your body feels restored, prepared. Of course, Mrs. Cartwright. She nods, leading the way. You follow with measured grace. Each step precise. Each breath steady. Centered. Present. Poised. You are ready for whatever awaits on the other side of this next door. The evening unfolds with its usual tempo, one gentleman after another, some familiar, some new. Each encounter a contained performance, varying in length, energy, and complexity. Through them all, your persona remains intact, attentive, charming, gracious. Even as fatigue begins to edge its way in, you hold the mask firmly in place. By 11, the house settles into a brief lull. Early visitors have departed. The late ones have yet to arrive. In the kitchen, the girls gather for a simple supper and tea. The large range still radiates warmth. Its heat wraps the room in a quiet embrace, marking this hour as one of respite. For now, the air carries the warm, comforting scent of freshly baked bread, mingling with the rich aroma of beef stew from dinner. Subtle traces of soap linger from the washing up, intertwined with the ever-present chill and faint smokiness that clings to London streets. Cook is retired for the night. Her day begins earliest, but she's thoughtfully left out a spread of bread, cheese, cold meats, and a fruit tart for you and the other girls to enjoy. You sink into a sturdy wooden chair at the kitchen table, its solid frame a welcome support. The evening's demands have left you weary, your body aware of its efforts but not pushed beyond endurance. The chair seems to cradle you, coaxing your muscles to loosen their careful tension. It's a small luxury, this moment of letting go, of simply being. Across the table, Emily is already seated, her plate holding a modest portion of bread and cheese. Her green silk dress, once pristine, now bears faint creases, and her carefully pinned hair is starting to slip free. The evening's work shows in these subtle signs, the slow unraveling of the polished image she crafted hours ago. Busy night? You ask, reaching for a plate. She nods, swallowing a bite of cheese. For already, and Mrs. Cartwright says a group might arrive later, gentlemen from a club dinner. Just then, Lily sweeps in, catching Emily's words. I heard the same, she adds. A private dining room at the George, 6 or 8 men, if they all show. This news stirs a mix of feelings. More customers mean more earnings, but also more effort when the evening's weight already presses on you. Still, this is your purpose, the rhythm of this life. You select a slice of bread, a wedge of cheese, and a piece of cold beef, arranging them with care on your plate. The simple, hearty food feels grounding after the night's exertions, no pretense, just honest sustenance. Sarah joins you, carrying the teapot from its warm perch by the range. The familiar ritual unfolds. The steaming amber liquid pours into cups, followed by offers of milk or sugar. You take a sip, the tea strong and sweet, a reviving warmth after hours of practiced smiles and calculated charm. The conversation around the table is quiet, relaxed. No one has the energy for grand discussions. Instead, you exchange small observations, minor grievances, and brief stories about the evening's clients. It's easy, this shared understanding, a bond that needs no explanation. The tea's warmth spreads through you, the food satisfies your hunger, and the familiar company soothes your spirit. Your breathing deepens, your shoulders soften, tension slipping away in this tranquil pause. It's a moment of peace, simple and restorative. Too soon, the respite ends. Mrs. Winters appears in the doorway, her stern expression perhaps a shade sharper than usual. They're here, she announces briskly. 6 gentlemen from the club dinner. Mrs. Cartwright wants everyone in the parlor now. A collective sigh ripples through the group, quickly stifled. Duty calls. Plates are pushed aside, teacups drained. and you each perform quick checks of hair and dresses. The brief ease of moments ago fades, replaced by the sharp focus of work. In the parlor, Mrs. Cartwright is already charming the new arrivals, 6 men, ranging from their 30s to 60s, their evening dress slightly disheveled from a long dinner. Cravats are loosened, waistcoats bear faint stains of wine or sauce. Their voices boom louder than the usual parlor tone, their laughter freer, loosened by good wine and camaraderie. Mrs. Cartwright glances up as you and the other girls enter, her face a mask of professional warmth. "Ah, here are the ladies now, gentlemen," she says smoothly. "May I present Emily, Lily, Sarah, and Mary? I'm certain you'll find their company delightful." What follows is a delicate dance of negotiation, more intricate with multiple clients. Preferences must be matched. Some men favor blondes, petite figures, or a particular demeanor. Some girls have their own specialties. Mrs. Cartwright navigates this with masterful ease, ensuring satisfaction without slighting anyone. You're paired with a younger man, perhaps 32, with dark hair thinning at the crown and a neat mustache. Edward, he introduces himself, his speech careful, as if monitoring his sobriety. "Delighted," he says, bowing over your hand. "And may I say, the blue of your dress is most becoming." The compliment, though standard, carries enough warmth to seem genuine, at least in this moment. You smile, offering the practiced grace such remarks always receive, your mind already assessing, slightly drunk but manageable, eager but not overbearing, likely married. A pale band marks where a ring was recently removed. The conversation follows a familiar arc. Light social chatter shifts to personal observations, then weaves in flirtation. Your body moves through its role effortlessly, the right smiles, the perfect responses to his bolder compliments, the calculated closeness that invites without overpromising. Eventually, the parlor's purpose is fulfilled. Like a choreographed play, each couple reaches the same cue within moments, rising from chairs and sofas, drifting toward the hallway and the stairs beyond. You lead Edward to the designated room. The encounter is unremarkable, neither particularly pleasant nor difficult. Edward, softened by wine, is conventional in his desires, and the matter concludes swiftly. He slips into a light doze beside you, his breathing deep and steady. You lie still, granting yourself a brief rest. The room is warm, the air heavy with the mingled sense of intimacy, his cologne, and the faint lavender of your toilette water. Outside, rain has resumed, tapping irregularly against the window. Distant sounds drift through the house, voices, laughter, the creak of floorboards. Your body registers the familiar aftermath, the slight stickiness of skin, the subtle ache of muscles, the slow return to normal breathing. It's not unpleasant, just the body's honest truth beneath the professional mask. Edward stirs, waking with a small jolt. "Oh," he mumbles, disoriented. "I must have. I do apologize." "Not at all," you reassure, your professional tone seamless. "You seem peaceful. I didn't wish to disturb." He smiles, relieved by your graciousness. The aftermath follows its usual course. Brief, slightly stilted conversation, the careful disentangling of bodies, the gathering of scattered clothing. You assist with his cravat, your fingers deftly tying the knot, and he thanks you sincerely for this small act, for the larger experience, for the carefully crafted illusion that lets him return to his life unburdened. Once he's gone, you perform the routine of restoration, washing, changing linens, tidying the room. The actions are automatic, your body moving with quiet efficiency while your mind drifts. It's been a long day, you realize, from the early morning, through chores, a doctor's visit, an afternoon client, evening preparations, and now multiple nighttime customers. Each demanded a different facet of yourself, a unique performance. The weight of these hours settles into a profound fatigue, both physical and mental. Yet there's satisfaction in it. Work done, money earned, challenges met. Your body feels well used, your mind tired but not troubled, simply ready for rest. The hallway clock chimes 1, a new morning, though still deep night by any measure. Outside, the rain intensifies, joined by the low rumble of thunder, a storm brewing. You finish tidying, checking your appearance one last time. The blue silk dress bears the evening's toll, creases set in, the fit slightly loosened. Your hair, despite efforts, has escaped its pins, and your subtle cosmetics have nearly vanished. Still presentable, but the evening's polished image is a distant memory. Downstairs, the parlor is empty save for Mrs. Cartwright, seated in her usual chair, noting entries in her account book. She looks up, her sharp eyes assessing you in a glance. "I believe that's all for tonight, Mary," she says, a trace of fatigue in her voice. "The last gentlemen have gone, And I don't expect more at this hour, especially with the weather. Relief washes over you, permission to shed the professional mask, to retreat to rest. Thank you, Mrs. Cartwright. Shall I help with anything before going up? She shakes her head, closing her book. No need. Mrs. Winters has secured the doors and windows. Cook will manage in the morning. She rises, smoothing her purple silk dress with practiced precision. Good night, then. Good night, Mrs. Cartwright. This brief exchange marks the end of the workday, a return to your private self. You climb the stairs to the top floor, each step heavier as fatigue fully claims you. The bedroom you share with Lily welcomes you with its unadorned simplicity. No customers ever enter here, a sanctuary for just the two of you. Two narrow beds with plain cotton sheets and wool blankets, a small chest for your daytime clothes and few possessions, a washstand with a simple pottery basin. Lily is already there, seated on her bed in her nightdress, brushing her long auburn hair with slow, tired strokes. She glances up, offering a smile rich with shared understanding. Finished for the night? She asks, her brush moving steadily. Yes, thank God, you reply. Mrs. Cartwright says that's all, with the storm coming. You begin undressing, your fingers deftly unfastening buttons and hooks despite their weariness. How was your evening? You ask. Lily shrugs, the gesture speaking volumes. The usual. Nothing special, but decent money. That last one was generous. The brief exchange carries the weight of your shared reality, no elaboration needed. The blue silk dress slips off, followed by the corset, your lungs expanding freely for the first time in hours. The cool air against your skin is a quiet joy, a moment that belongs to you alone. You slip into a soft, well-worn cotton nightdress, its familiar comfort a gentle embrace, free of performance. You unpin your hair, letting it tumble loose, and begin brushing it out, the rhythmic strokes soothing, the slight tug against your scalp easing the day's last tensions. Do you ever wonder what it would be like? Lily asks suddenly, her voice soft in the lamp-lit room. A different life, I mean. The question, born of late-night fatigue, isn't surprising. You pause, brushing steadily as you consider. Sometimes, you admit. But then I remember what it was like, the hunger, the cold, the fear of the workhouse. Here, we eat well, we're warm, we have some say in our lives. She nods, accepting the practicality of your words. I suppose that's it, isn't it? Not good or bad, just different kinds of hard. Different prices to pay. Yes, you agree, setting down your brush. Different prices. This moment of quiet reflection feels precious, an honest acknowledgement of your shared reality without illusion or despair. The conversation shifts to practical matters, plans for the morning, a reminder about laundry day, guesses about whether the storm will disrupt deliveries. These small, grounding details anchor you. Finally ready, you extinguish the lamp and slip beneath your bed's covers. The sheets are cool at first, warming with your body's heat. The horsehair mattress, though lumpy, feels like a haven to your exhausted frame. You shift, finding that perfect position where everything settles just right. Outside, the storm has grown fiercer, rain pounding the window, wind rattling the panes. But within, there's warmth, shelter, the deep quiet of a day's work done. Your eyes close, your breathing slows. Night, Mary, Lily's voice drifts softly through the dark. Good night, Lily, you murmur, the words softened by encroaching sleep. The day's events begin to fade, specific moments blurring into sensations and impressions. Your body's presence in the bed becomes your focus, the weight of the blanket, the pillow's softness, the pleasant heaviness of your limbs as they fully relax. Your breathing finds its natural rhythm, deep and steady, each exhale drawing you deeper into rest, each inhale guiding you towards sleep. Your mind quiets, thoughts softening, no longer demanding attention. The storm outside weaves a soothing symphony, a perfect lullaby for sleep. The steady rhythm of rain against the window, the distant, softening rumble of thunder, and the gentle whispers of wind curling around the house's edges create a timeless cradle of sound. Nature's ancient song envelopes you, easing your mind into a state of rest. Your consciousness drifts on this tranquil sea, not striving or swimming, but simply floating, carried effortlessly by the storm's tender cadence. In this liminal space, hovering at the edge of slumber, a quiet wisdom sometimes emerges, not the sharp focus of wakefulness, nor the vivid chaos of dreams, but a gentle clarity. A perspective that stretches beyond the daily grind of small triumphs and struggles. Your life within this Victorian brothel feels like a single delicate thread woven into the vast, intricate tapestry of women's experiences across time. It's a challenging existence, undeniably fraught with risks and condemned by a society that both creates its necessity and fuels its demand with hypocritical fervor. Yet, within these walls, there are freedoms not found elsewhere. A measure of economic independence, however modest, a sisterhood, however tangled by competition, and a degree of control over your daily life, however bounded by broader social chains. In this drowsy moment, the weight of history, of countless women before you, navigating their own constrained choices, feels not like a burden, but like quiet companionship. You're neither the first nor the last to chart these turbulent waters. The details shift fashions, economies, social rules, but the core of this experience, its essence, echoes through the ages. This thought wraps around you like a soft blanket, bringing unexpected comfort as you sink deeper towards sleep. Your breathing slows, each exhale a gentle release, your body growing heavier, melting into the mattress. The bed's embrace is so inviting, so complete, urging you to let go entirely. Beyond this room, the Victorian world spins on, its rigid hierarchies, its stark inequalities, its elaborate charades that keep the system turning. But here, in this small sanctuary, there's only the primal truth of a body craving rest, a mind yearning for the renewal that sleep promises. These are the simplest, most universal needs, unchanged since humanity's dawn. The room's details begin to blur as sleep draws nearer. The physical sensations, the bed's comforting weight, the storm's rhythmic pulse, even the awareness of your own steady breathing start to fade, like a tide easing back from the shore. All that remains is a serene, weightless drifting, a peaceful glide toward unconsciousness. Sleep beckons now, inviting you to surrender fully to its perfect calm. Your eyelids are impossibly heavy, far too heavy to lift. Your limbs settle, pleasantly anchored, with no desire to stir. You long only to drift deeper, to sink into the restorative depths of true rest. The day is done, its work complete. No more is asked of you now, but to rest, to renew, perhaps to dream of other lives, other worlds. For this moment, though, there's only sleep, deep, peaceful, effortless. Each breath carries you further down, slower, calmer, into that exquisite state of complete rest. Sleep now, sleep well, drifting ever deeper into perfect, tranquil repose.